Hi, this is your host, Lori Moilov with Limitless Podcast. And today I have an awesome guest. His name is Alexander Seyum, and he is a Salvadorian and Eritrean filmmaker and photographer based in Los Angeles. You also have been in the entertainment industry for quite some time. You started and went to school at the LA Film School, and you've been known for writing, producing, directing, and you've directed this film called The Sun Rises, which is also making its debut. How exciting in 2023 around the film festival circuit. That's so exciting. And I'll make sure that we have a link for our listeners to see a little short of your film. Also, you've been known as a photojournalist and a still photographer, and you've shot so many events. I've seen you as always with a camera. That's how I've seen you at the Grammys, LA Dodgers, LA Rams, Golden Boy boxing, NASCAR. I recently saw you doing NASCAR. You had some really cool shots of Ice Cube recently, and you do unit stills on productions. I guess what kind of started the catalyst for you to kind of jump into creativity and grabbing a camera, whether that's, for photography or cinematography?
Yeah, so thank you for your kind words. And, well, ever since I was, growing up, I've always been into the arts. When I was in school, high school, I know how to draw. So I used to be like the artist of the classroom. So the teacher would always have me do assignments drawing for class. And, I kind of just picked up on art and writing. Back in the days, I used to write poetry, and,
Oh, cool.
poetry led into short stories. And eventually, when I went to film school, it turned into screenwriting. So I started writing short scripts. And, I went to school for writing, producing, and directing. And as an independent filmmaker and artist, I just kind of pushed that whatever I was good at when it came to art, I just kind of moved with it. And it took me, to these different places. And, I never intended to be a photographer. When I went to school, I went for writing, producing, and directing. And I bought a camera. So I was shooting behind the scenes photos of like student filmmakers on student sets. And I was like, hey, this is another medium I can use. I can tell stories with a camera now, and I can start, learning this process. So I became a self-taught photographer. I was working independently. I was working as a PA, a grip, working on different productions. I was just doing, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And eventually I got into shooting concert photography for a magazine company. And then I started doing red carpets. And then from red carpets, it led to sports. I've been shooting boxing for over 6 years now. I had a chance to shoot the LA Dodgers, the LA Rams. And, I just kind of, any situation that I saw myself in, I would always network. And if I saw another person with a camera doing something that I enjoyed doing, I would go up to this person and talk to them, say, hey, how'd you get started? And they would give me their feedback and give me their story. And then I would just, pick up on these different cues and tools and say, okay, well, if they did it, that means I can do it. It's possible. So I kept pushing myself to get to that next level.
Wow. So I totally agree with you, like pushing out of your comfort zone and networking. And I guess like you've also created your own network. Can you kind of talk about that and what that group is? And you guys do workshops?
Yeah, for sure. So about 5 years ago, I met my producing partner. Her name is Bernice Molina. She runs URA, which represents underrepresented artists, and the slogan is from the streets to the set. So she's a casting agent for different shows. She does SWAT on CBS. She does shows on Hulu and Netflix, and we've been working together for almost 5 years now. And we teamed up with an acting coach, Alex Alfaro, and Blanca, his girlfriend, and they run a teaching class in East LA. Partner with them, and we all work together and help each other out in our community. So they have an acting class, a weekly acting class for beginners and intermediates and senior, acting people in our community. But from URA, they've been landing shows on big time shows, hit shows. We all come from the streets. A lot of us come from a background where no one in our family comes from acting. No one in our family comes from filmmaking or photography. We're the first ones in our family to do this. And, we're figuring this out as we move along. And we've all just teamed up and kind of started this movement. And we also have partners in Four Ways Entertainment. These guys are filmmakers out here in LA. Yeah, we all just teamed up, and we were just kind of starting a movement of getting Latinos and Afro-Latino people into the industry as in front of the camera and behind the camera. So we're doing the teaching classes, we're, doing photography classes and acting classes.
That's so cool. And one thing, especially about LA, is we're a melting pot for creativity. What would you suggest for creatives that maybe they don't know where, like, where to start, where to go, whether that's photography or cinematography, can you give them some tools or ideas where to start?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was coming up, I didn't know. Like I kind of jumped into film school thinking that's just a route to go. If I can go back in time, film school was great, but I didn't have to go to film school, because I learned that there's other avenues you can take. There's so many programs in LA like Film Independent. There's just so many independent groups out there where you can come in as a PA, you can come in and kind of be mentored by a seasoned professional. I believe that networking is key, like reaching out to somebody who does what you like or you want to do in the future and just telling them your story. Hey, like how can I learn from you? How can I shadow you? Asking will never hurts. I think that there's more benefit to it because there's people out there who really want to help. They're looking for somebody who's young and hungry and just wants to come up the ladder, and they're there to teach, and I've been fortunate enough to pass down my skills down to the next generation coming up. I never saw myself doing that in the past, but now I am doing it. And, I'm very open to giving people advice. I'm very open to, pointing them in the right direction on how to go. A lot of people have contacted me about photography because I'm shooting these big events. And what I tell them is this: if you're following a social media site, if you're following Instagram, Facebook, a website, reach out to those editors who run those sites and find out how you can be brought on as a contributing photographer or even being on their roster, because right now I'm a rostered photographer for a few different photo agencies and a magazine. So, it doesn't hurt to reach out, build up your portfolio, and just ask, hey, how can I be part of this, this organization, this team? And, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like reaching out and mentorship is always a part of that. And I find like, what are some things that I guess along your creative journey of mentorship that's kind of helped influence your creative path?
Just passing down the knowledge that I've gained over the years. I made a lot of mistakes and I made a lot of things, a lot of things worked in my favor. So it's just passing down both. It's like, look, if I see somebody come up the ladder as a photographer or a filmmaker and I see them, it's always good to make a mistake, because when you make a mistake, you can learn from that mistake and you can pass that down later. And I've been passing that down like, hey, go down this road, don't go down this road. There's things you can't do, things you can do. But it's just, for me, being in this industry over 10 years, there's a lot of times where you're going to fall on your face. You're going to attempt something and it's not going to turn out the way you think it's going to happen. But then, by the grace of God, he directs you to another direction. Like, oh, it worked out, but it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out, and yeah. So it's just kind of passing out that advice, and a lot of times, people get discouraged because this entertainment industry is very tough. You have to have thick skin. There's sometimes you see yourself being at a certain level at a certain age at a certain time, and you're not going to get there maybe when you think you are, but eventually, those doors will open. You'll get there.
Yeah, no, so true. And especially, you're about the entertainment industry, it has its ups and downs. And especially like in the creative space, it has its perils. What are some of the ways that you help kind of balance that?
I don't know. As far as balance is tough for me because I'm a workaholic. Whenever I'm working on a project, I never have one project going on. I got multiple things going on in my career. And it's kind of hard because there is no, stop. There's no, I'm not clocking out. I can't clock out. You know what I mean? It's like, even though I work a full-time job, I'm a manager, I work in a camera rental store, we service cameras for TV shows. I work in the industry, plus I'm working on my side projects. It could be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like I'm still working on something. I'll sleep my
Right.
5 hours and then I'll get back up and I'm back on the grind, So for me, there's no balance. It's kind of like just keep working, producing until it's done, until the project's done. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so true. And the interesting thing with the industry is I kind of consider it sometimes on a project, you're like, okay, you're on the train and you can't jump off till it, gets to completion. And that's just what it is. So very
Exactly.
true.
And that's what it
Yeah.
is, and it's it's about passion. If you have passion for what you're doing and you're not necessarily looking for that paycheck, because you do both. There's paid jobs, paid gigs that you're doing it, you're making a living, but at the same time, there's those passion projects that you have, and you're just pursuing it. You're pursuing it, and you're the only one who's working on it until you can bring on partners and people to back you up. But you're gonna have to do the legwork. You're gonna one who's gonna build the foundation. You're the one who's gonna do all the research. You're the one who's gonna be staying up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, building the website, interviewing people, doing the hustle. It's gonna be based on you and I and everyone who does what we do. And I think for anybody coming up this ladder or who wants to pursue this industry, that's what it is. You got to be the one who's pushing forward. And then eventually when you have a moving train, the other people are going to jump on the train because they see you moving,
So true. And I was wondering if you could tell a little bit us about the process of your film, how it kind of came to exist, because, it starts, and a lot of people, especially storytellers and filmmakers, it takes years sometimes for a project to finally land to screen. So I guess, can you tell me a little bit about that creative process and journey?
The title of my film is called The Sun Rises, S-O-N, Sun. The story came to me back in 2016. And it was based on my personal life experiences being pulled over, harassed by police officers. And it takes place in Los Angeles, but it takes place pretty much, this story is all over the place. If you're Hispanic, Latino, and you're growing up and you're dealing with immigration, you're dealing with police harassment, it relates to everyone in my community. So I've been affected by, stereotypes and by police and harassment. And I'm a Christian. I consider myself a Christian, meaning I believe in Christ. I don't follow anything by the book. I'm more of a rebel type of person, and I'll have to answer for my sins, one day. But I believe in the story of Christ, and I believe that his story of being crucified relates directly to the Black Lives Matter movement, to Latino Lives Matter movement. And my story connects the crucifixion of Jesus Christ to the crucifixion of, Black and brown people in our country. And I wrote a story, produced it, took me 6 years of producing, and I directed it, my partners, and we did a campaign, a fundraiser. We raised almost $25,000 for the film. And this was during the pandemic. This was this was during 2021. We shot it in the summer of 2021. And it's an independent film. Everything's grassroots. And it took us a year of editing, putting it together, music, sound, and, bringing on post-production. And so I've been pushing it out to the film festivals, but this project took me 6 years of creating. Yeah. There was days where I wanted to throw in the towel because financially I couldn't do it, or just the time. I had so much other work on my plate, which I felt like I couldn't do it. I had to put it to the side, but I kept coming back to it because the story is very important to me. And we had our debut at the Rome International Film Festival in Atlanta, Georgia, near Atlanta, Georgia. So it's great. This was past this November, so a few months ago. We got to screen at the Santa Clarita Film Festival, and then we had a few online film festivals in Santa Monica, and then the Martha's Vineyard. And and this is just the beginning of the year. So we have the rest of the year to find out, what other festivals we got into. But as a filmmaker, amazing. Thank you. As a filmmaker, it took me 6 years working on one project. And this is a film that's over 45 minutes, so it's not a short, it's not a feature, it's a featurette. But it took time, dedication, passion, finances, just blood, sweat, and tears, pushing it out there, and God's gonna put it where it needs to be, and God's gonna have it seen where it needs to be seen.
Exactly, so true. And I ask all my guests usually one word that kind of connects them to creativity. What would your one word be?
For me, it's inspire, because there's days, as a creative person, there's days that are shining for you, and there's days that are raining for you, dark for you. And I always look for somebody or something that inspires me, because if I look at another person's life, another person's journey, and they had it harder than me, and they came out of it and became something greater, that inspires me, that motivates me, that pushes me. Even the story of Christ, for me, that's a big motivator, because he already dealt with the pain, he already dealt with the struggle, he dealt with the death. So I felt like he already went through it. If he went through it, and I can deal with this, then I can go through it and I can overcome this. So as an artist, we always strive to be better, to be more creative, come up with the next project. It's a lot of pressure that we have on ourselves, but I'm always trying to inspire. I hope I am inspiring other people, but it's just a train that you got to keep pushing forward. You got all this weight on your back, but you got to keep pushing, and finally, one day you get to that finish line. But then when you get to the finish line, there's something else you want to do. So it's like
it's multiple trains, right?
Multiple trains,
all at the same time.
It never ends. It never ends. But I enjoy what I do. I get to be a creative person. I get to be an artist. I get to, just come up with things and team up with people and work on projects. And, Of course, everyone has to have that day job, you know what I mean? But one day you hustle so hard and so long enough that you turn your passion into the day job, which is great.
Yeah, no, so true. And inspiration, teamwork, and passion is really kind of where it lies. Where can some of our Limitless listeners kind of tap in, either connect with you, whether that's a website you'd like to share or joining some of the workshops and community that you're building in LA?
Oh, for sure. So my main Instagram page is Carnival_Pictures. My photography gallery is Carnival_Pictures_stills. And I'll send you the links to all that. Also, too, I have my trailer to my film online, which I'll send to you. And some of my partners are From the Streets to the Set. I'll send you the link. And then Four Ways Entertainment. I'll send you the link as well. Yeah, it's a community of us. And, we're just striving to give back to our community. Even though nobody gives us anything, we still want to give back. The community gives a lot, but as far as the entertainment industry, they're up there. So a lot of them are up there in their towers, and we have to climb up that wall trying to get up there. But we're trying to do something in LA, South LA, East LA, Hollywood, and we're just building a name, building a brand, and trying to have people take us seriously. So but I think we're doing a great job with that.
No, definitely. And I think your first event was a huge success. And I'm looking forward to seeing so many more. And I definitely will make sure in our description to have a link to the website and to kind of go to some of the events. And for our Limitless listeners, just keep inspired, as Alexander said, and, keep those passion projects going. And it takes a while, just like Alexander said, like sometimes 6 years, right? It takes a moment. So just be patient with yourself and keep going. So thank you so much, Alexander, for being on the podcast and sharing your gems.
Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you.